Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And this is upside down this time. The FAIRtax Guys didn't want to do this upside down. It was pointing the other way than what we're normally used to. Just noticed that at the last second.
I'm glad you did.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, well, we're into the new year.
Into the new year. That was informative talking to Randy last week.
It always is.
He is always a wealth of great information. And
we have to give Randy a hard time, though, because previous to the show, he said, well, I think it'll take 12 minutes. And Bob said, that'll be the day when Randy only takes 12 minutes.
Well, we'll quote Buddy Holly on that one. But, I think one of the most significant things that came out of that last week was, people who are in states that do not have strong fair tax organizations can reach some of the resources and get it going in your state. And we really need to get this going at a state level because, the National Congress is just a mutt mess that's not likely to fix itself anytime soon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Congress is not going to fix itself.
All right, well, one thing we did not have time for last week was our Grassroots Corner, which has become a regular feature here on FAIRtax Power Radio. So what you got?
Yep. Well, Jim Bennett, who is a board member of the national group, the Americans for Fair Taxation, is the grassroots director for AFFT, and he has a report every week. This one is kind of personal for him. Late last month, I became a grandfather of a fourth boy and asked myself, what kind of a world will I leave him? And I wonder, what can I do to make the world just a little better? For sure, my grandson will face challenges, and he lists a number of challenges that we all face, and some of them remain unresolved. But there are some reasons for hope. The environment is cleaner, world poverty is lower, the world's population promises to stabilize by 2050, when my grandson will be 31. But there is one challenge that nobody is talking about, and that will be catastrophic. That challenge is government, fiscal, and monetary irresponsibility. Mm-hmm. The media doesn't talk about these issues because most people have had a hard time wrapping their heads around it, okay? My grandson will pay in plenty and get nothing, all right? But there's a way to help it, and of course, he says, what does the fair tax have to do with fixing any of these problems? Plenty.
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, the fair tax is a bill that addresses just about every issue in the country.
A strong economy fixes a lot of problems.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and while returning individual freedom to the citizens of the country. Anyway, plenty, he says. First, the fair tax base is more stable. We've talked about this before. When times are good, revenues rise less. There's less fluctuation when the economy ebbs and flows with a sales tax than there is with an income tax. The income tax, revenues from an income tax kind of are wild, when the economy goes bad. Yep. But with a sales tax, it's much more even. Yeah, it changes a little bit, but it's much more even.
People still have to buy things.
It's yeah, that's right. But so he talks about how the fair tax is much more stable, and he goes on talks about some other things. But I like the last part here, and I'll finish up with this. It is a privilege for me to be a part of a movement that can help make a better world for my grandson. This is the year 2020. I resolved to do a better job to grow the fair tax grassroots, and as I mentioned, he is the grassroots coordinator for AFFT. That will be my part. If each of us does his or her part for the fair tax, we can look our children and our grandchildren in the eyes and tell them we did something to leave the world just a little bit better than what we found it. What is your fair tax resolution for 2020?
Mine is to keep doing FAIRtax Power Radio.
Absolutely. Yep. More FAIRtax Power Radio. Absolutely. And get more people involved. And this is what we're trying to do, all right? Last week, Randy talked about some of the things that individuals can do, whether it be in Alabama or Georgia or wherever, okay? And that's what we're asking you to do. Get involved. You don't have to get as involved as Bob and I mean, we do put a lot of time, admittedly. You don't have to put that much time. You can make phone calls. You can just go to the FAIRtax logo store and buy stuff and wear, a shirt or whatever.
And again, if you're really adept at social media, we could use folks that would help create content, and you don't have to be trying to hit all of the different platforms at once. Just specialize in your favorite social media and educate the folks on that social media platform about the FAIRtax. And there's some really good memes out there that you can do that with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I still think your one with the dog crawling out of the lake when everybody else gets hosed is one of the best ones.
Yep.
You may have to dig that up and put that picture up here so folks can see what we're talking about.
All right. Yep, I will. I'll post it up there so people know what we're talking about.
Okay.
And we did a whole episode about some of the memes that people create. Guys like David Boone, and I'm sorry I don't want to leave anybody out, but I've done a few and so forth, and there's some talented people.
There are.
Yep. And there are some people that are adept at social media. They can help us out. There are people that can go to an information booth and help pass out information. They can help us out. There's all kinds of ways. Okay?
Indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, something else we did not have time to do last week when we were talking to Randy is to, guess what? Congress is back in session.
Oh, yes.
What does that mean? Even though they are, just focused like a laser on this impeachment thing, and that's sucking all the most of the oxygen out of the room, they are still recommending changes to the tax code. If you go to congress.gov and you use their search function and you search on the string, put these words in quotes, Internal Revenue Code, before the break, this is just under 1,300. I think 1,294 was the count we had last time we looked. The number of hits you get back on that search now is 1,325.
Yep, we're recording this on January 3rd.
So they're
1,325. I counted up during the 2019 year. Congress was in session 130 days, so that's a little over 10 proposals to change the tax code every day they were in session. Fortunately, not all of them will become law. All right, but some of them will.
I bet this one will.
Oh, go ahead.
We've come up with some cool ones here. This one caught my eye. It's H.R. 5512 from Representative George Holding of North Carolina. The Tanning Tax Repeal Act of 2019. Apparently there's a tax for tanning. And, no, actually, I looked into that a little bit. It is to repeal the excise tax on indoor tanning equipment. I got those ultraviolet tanning beds. I guess you got to pay a federal excise tax if you get one of those.
I thought maybe they were tanning leathers.
Oh, well, no.
Well, in a way they are.
in a way they are. So that's working on another one. And let's see. How about a S3136, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to establish small business startup savings accounts. Now, when do you need to amend the tax code to allow somebody to start a savings account?
Yeah, because,
I don't know.
Yeah, because the income tax is involved in everything we do, including our savings accounts. So we have to get relief to get away from the income tax in order to have a savings account to start it. I mean, it's just nuts. You have another one? Because I have one.
Yeah, I have one more. It says a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow for contributions to the Alzheimer's Research and Caregiving Trust Fund and for other purposes. And of course, contributing to Alzheimer's research is a good idea. But you really don't need the tax code to motivate people who are concerned about that issue.
That's right.
To take some action on that.
People contribute to causes like that because they're keenly aware and they want to do something to help. They don't do it because they get a tax break. For one thing, with the standard deduction now for a couple at $24,000, you and I will not approach that level. Yeah, so any contributions we make are not going to be tax deductible.
You take the standard deduction and that's it. And of course, if people have more money in their pocket because there's no federal withholding from their paycheck, because the federal payroll taxes have gone away, because they're getting a tax refund every month, if you've got more money in your pocket, you've got money to give.
Yeah. So I've got one here, and I want to ask the question. I'm just going to read this once. I'm not going to read it twice. But I want you to have this question in your mind. Does this tax proposal make our income tax more simple? Here it is. Bill H.R. 4198. to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to cover the Treasury of the Virgin Islands revenue from the tax on gasoline refined in the Virgin Islands and entered into the United States.
What was that?
Sorry, I'm not going to. You're just going to have to ponder it, or maybe hit the rewind button or something, because that is a proposal for our tax code. Does that make it simpler? No, it doesn't. And that is what we're dealing with, the over 1,300 proposals. And this is only halfway through the 116th Congress.
Yes, 1,325.
Yeah.
That's how many hits that search returns if you go to congress.gov and you search on the string Internal Revenue Code.
And we got another whole year to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll
So,
check that all out.
That's a little nuts. Okay.
This is going to be another fun episode.
Yeah.
This is, as we mentioned last week, we want to help folks learn how to interact when they go. There are going to be a lot more town halls with this election year coming up. Candidates are going to be, more accessible than they normally are. Mm-hmm. So you go to your town hall, you take your FAIRtax sign,
Yep.
and then. But this is how you, a politician. You see this all the time. They have got boilerplate answers that are a lot of words and not a whole lot of substance.
Yes.
And you ask a question, you are 99 and 44% probability of getting one of these boilerplate answers that doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
That's designed not to offend anybody, to walk on both sides of the line and just, make it look like he's in your corner, but he's really not. So we have got some politicians, and I'll tell you what, wait a minute here. This is your coat, by the way.
Yeah.
But I've got to put on
Jim?
my candidate's gear here. Here we go.
Okay. Now we have Mr. Paxton, candidate for office.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Paxton.
Yes.
What do you think about the fair tax?
Well, now wait a minute. Now I don't have to worry about the fair tax. We've already addressed tax reform with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. We don't need to mess with the fair tax or anything else. We've already solved the problem and moved on to other things.
Oh, okay. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 you claim was reform.
Absolutely.
And we don't need more reform.
That is correct.
Well, is it still an income tax?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Do we still have the IRS?
Of course.
Okay. Do we still have payroll withholding?
You do.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I do. Is there still? Do we still have to fill out tax returns? Before April 15th.
No, you can do it online. It's real simple. The computer does it for you.
Yeah, but we still have to report our earnings and our savings and all that stuff to the government. Correct?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
We have to know that.
Essentially, we have the same system. If we still have an income tax, we still have the IRS, we still have payroll withholding, which is the most regressive tax there is. And we still have, all these things. What was reform? Doesn't reform mean that you fundamentally change the system?
No, we've dealt with that. Next question. Next question.
Okay. All right. Now, what do you think about the fair tax in terms of the research behind it?
Well, I think now this fair tax you're talking about that replaces the income tax.
That's right.
Now I think the idea of replacing the income tax with a consumption tax of some kind, that might work, but really, truth about it, that issue just needs a lot more study before we can put that into place.
Oh, I see. Okay. Have you looked at the website for the national group, FAIRtax.org?
No, sir.
Oh, well, okay. I think if you do go to FAIRtax.org, you'll find out that the Americans for Fair Taxation over the last 20 years have conducted over $20 million worth of research.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know of a tax bill or any bill that has more than $20 million worth of research behind it?
No, I don't.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think so. All right. There are economists and tax policy experts, such as those that are part of the AFFT, the Americans for Fair Taxation, who have done a lot of work on this. All right. the FAIRtax has more research behind it than probably any bill in Congress. I mean, isn't that the case? I mean, do we know of any other bill that has that much research?
I'm not familiar with one off the top of my head. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, how about the bill itself? Do you think after $20 million worth of research that it's like 2,000 pages long?
Oh, at least.
Yeah, it's 131 pages. It's 131 really? Pages. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is language that rescinds the current tax code, all right? Because it's a sales tax. It's very simple. Everybody in the country knows what a sales tax is because 45 of the 50 states already have a state sales tax. They've dealt with it all their lives and so forth. And so everybody is quite familiar with it. So it doesn't take a lot to get the FAIRtax. And yet, because it is fundamental reform, there is over $20 million worth of research behind it.
Oh, okay. Now, wait a minute. Let's move on. Now, listen, I want to be sure everybody understands my position here. Now, I certainly think taxes should be fair. And that really is the biggest problem I see with the national sales tax. I would not support a tax system that hurts the poor. I would really prefer a flat tax.
Okay, flat tax, okay. So in 1913, when the income tax was born, wasn't it pretty flat at that point?
I don't know. I wasn't around in 1913.
Well, no, but you can read.
Okay.
Yes. And it was very simple tax, and it was sold to the people in 1913, almost 100 years, over 100 years ago. All right, that is just a small tax on the most wealthy Americans. Is it just a small tax on the most wealthy Americans now? No, it's not. No, there's you've got the payroll tax, which, as we said before, is the most regressive tax there is. All right, so as far as hurting the poor, part of the research.
Let me make this perfectly clear. I do not want to hurt the poor.
Okay, all right, and fortunately, we agree on that, all right, because there is this thing called the family consumption allowance. It is true that if the FAIRtax was implemented without the family consumption allowance, which we nicknamed the prebate, it would be devastating to the poor because we're talking about a 23% tax. However, the Americans for Fair Taxation, when they came up with this bill, they realized that's going to be a problem, so we need to do something about it. And they combated that problem with a very simple rebate that goes out to every legal household in this country at the beginning of the month, hence the name prebate. Are you familiar with the prebate?
No, sir.
No, I don't think so. And what it does, it has the effect of rendering the people that are right at the poverty level tax-free. Yes, they will pay the fair tax when they go to the store and they buy a new product or they pay for a service and so forth. But at the same time, at the beginning of the month, based on their family size, they're going to get, right now, the last year's, the 2019 prebate schedule for a family of 4, mom and dad and 2 kids, they would get $648 a month to reimburse them for the fair tax that they pay on the basic necessities of life. Do you think $648 a month for a family of 4 that's just getting by, you think that's a big deal?
Could be.
Yeah, that's a very big deal, okay? The prebate renders the fair tax absolutely fair. Now, so the people that are just getting by, they are reimbursed for the taxes they're going to pay on the new goods and products. But those people who earn more than the basic amount, well, when they spend more, they're going to, if it's a family of 4, they'll get the same amount, but they'll spend more. And when they spend more, they'll pay more in taxes.
Okay.
Doesn't that sound kind of fair?
Well, actually, it really does. But I'll tell you what, that does sound pretty good, but I just don't think there's the political will to do that right now. I don't see anything like that ever passing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just being realistic here.
All right, so the fair tax is legislation in Congress, okay?
It is?
Yes, it's HR 25.
Okay, I will have my staff person look at it.
Yeah, because you would be part of almost 40 co-sponsors if you decided to co-sponsor it.
I don't co-sponsor anything I haven't read.
Well, it's only 131 pages.
Oh, okay.
So that might take you a couple hours.
Okay.
Hopefully you find time to read that, okay? So do you realize...
I vote on things I haven't read all the time, but I don't co-sponsor anything I
okay.
haven't read.
You voted in favor of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you realize that had fewer co-sponsors than the FAIRtax? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the FAIRtax has more co-sponsors than the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act had in 2017. That's a fact. Look it up.
Okay. I will have my staff person look at that. And
yeah, well, look into it yourself, too.
Okay.
That would be good.
Actually, let me say this, that I really prefer shifting more of the tax burden from individuals to corporations. Make these multi-billion-dollar corporations pay their fair share so individuals do not have to pay as much. I would support that.
Oh, okay. So the corporation you want the corporations to pay more taxes, and that will take the burden off of their customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, let's take a company that makes windows. They have to buy glass, they have to buy framing material, they have to pay labor, they have to have computers, they have to have clerical help, sales staff, and so forth. All of those costs are a cost of doing business, correct?
Yes.
And all of those costs are rolled into the price of their product that the consumer pays.
Well, it has to be if they want to stay in business.
Yep, that's right, if they want to stay in business. I mean, after all, if you can't make a profit in business, there's no point in being in business, okay? Now, so you're going to raise the taxes on the corporations. Isn't that a cost of doing business, just like their materials, labor, and clerical help? The answer is yes.
No, that's just paying their fair share.
That's paying their fair share, but it's also a cost of doing business. So when politicians say that they think the corporations should pay their fair share, we, their consumers, their employees, and the members of their boards, their shareholders, we actually pay those costs every single time. All right. When you raise the taxes on a corporation, it is people that pay for it, because after all, corporations are made of people, right?
Oh, well, yes.
Yes, corporations are made of people. I've had a friend of mine who is an attorney. He says a corporation is a legal fiction. It is made of people. So when you raise taxes on those people, that corporation, you're raising taxes on the people.
I know how to fix this. You just stop all these American companies from moving overseas. Now, those jobs and that money needs to stay right here in the United States, and I will support legislation that penalizes the fire out of those companies that take jobs overseas.
Why are they moving overseas?
Because they're un-American and unpatriotic.
Oh, okay. It couldn't be that the tax system is wildly out of control and expensive, and they're actually finding that they have a better tax situation and lower costs by moving their headquarters overseas. In other words, could it be that the current tax system is chasing American corporations away? The answer to that one is yes.
Let me get back to you on that.
Well, I'll help you out. The answer is yes. Yes. A large part of corporate inversion is due to the tax code. Its complexity and its rate. Okay. Now, for instance, what happened when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act reduced the tax rate from especially the repatriation tax down to, I think, 14%? What happened? Do you remember what happened?
Let me research that, and I'll get back to you.
Well, I can tell you that for one thing, Apple announced that they were opening up a new plant here in the United States, and just recently on the news, just the other day, Ford announced that it's opening up a new plant in Detroit. All right, and they're investing over $1 billion because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So, if we reduced the repatriation tax down to 14%. What do you think would happen if we reduced it to 0?
Next question.
Okay.
Marcia, you drive a tough bargain here, but I'll tell you what. We need more IRS agents to combat evasion.
Evasion is a serious problem. Evasion is a huge problem. It is it's got up around $800 billion a year that people are evading. And I'm not talking about legal avoidance. If you can legally use the tax code and reduce your tax burden, that's fine. You should do that, whether you're an individual or a corporation. But if you're evading by underreporting your income or overreporting your deductions or something like that, that is unlawful, and that's a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yes, it is.
And so, in fact, it's a big problem to the point that about over 20% of our tax income is being evaded. Did you realize that?
No.
Do you know what the tax evasion on a sales tax is?
Not much.
Well, according to a CPA friend of mine from Colorado, it's between 1% and 2% for a sales tax. So, in terms of evasion, which is a better plan for the United States? The income tax at 21% or a sales tax between 1% and 2%?
My chief of staff is saying I have to go here in just a moment, but I will tell you one other problem with this thing is we create a huge black market for tax-free goods.
Okay. So now there's one feature about the fair tax that I don't think I mentioned, and that is used goods are not subject to the fair tax. So that's another thing that would help the poor, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because they could buy a used car instead of a new car, and they wouldn't have to deal with the fair tax. So if used items are not subject to the fair tax, where is this black market? Is the black market going to start selling Fords and Chevys, brand new Fords and Chevys and Cadillacs and so forth? Isn't that kind of difficult?
Could be.
Is the black market going to start setting up a shop like a big store like Walmart?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that.
I think the black market is going to be very minuscule. Yeah, there's always going to be a few people who try to evade the system.
But my chief of staff is saying I have got to go. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay. Well, I did the best I could. All right.
but got to get out of that thing. That was hot.
Yeah. Anyways,
but it's amazing how many politicians don't know all that stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, I want to be fair. The politicians, the people who are in Congress, my congressman told us this, that and we can see this for just the tax part of it. Congress submits about 10,000 bills every year on all kinds of things, not just the 1,300 that we talked about for taxes, you know, which might become 2,600 at the end of the year, you know, end of this 2020. And it's not possible for them to know every detail of every bill. And I understand that, you know, my congressman is a co-sponsor of the fair tax, Ted Yoho. But
unfortunately, he's retiring.
And he's retiring at the end of this term. But there's no way he can be an expert on the fair tax. He knows the concepts. He knows it's good for the country, and he's in favor of it. He has read the bill.
Yes.
He did take the time to read the bill, okay? So, yes, it's true that people in Congress or candidates cannot be an expert on every detail of every bill. It's not humanly possible. But the concepts of the fair tax are pretty simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need the Reader's Digest version of your FAIRtax logo store promo here because we are just about over our time here.
Yep. All right. Well, anyways, we do have the earrings now, FAIRtax earrings. You can take a look at these. The tote bag, which fell down there, anyways, and I can't reach it right now. We have these nice tote bags, tumblers. Take a look at these tumblers. They're really nice. You can buy a set of these things. All right. Don't forget the scrolling banner. As we said, the FAIRtax Guys require you to take this to your next town hall and make your. We've got umbrellas. We've got palm cards. We got the prebate cards, which you can put in the shirt pocket of your FAIRtax shirt. Okay. These prebate cards are nice. People like these because they're small and they're easy to take along. So basic information about the FAIRtax on one side, prebate schedule, which we'll be updating in the next few weeks on the back side. Okay, yard signs, scrolling banners, so forth. Lots of good stuff. Go on to FAIRtaxLogoStore.org, FAIRtaxLogoStore.org. Take a look at the pages. It's a simple website. And we ask you to visibly show your support for the FAIRtax.
Right.
And especially when you talk to a candidate who's running for office and doesn't seem to know much about the FAIRtax.
All right. And if you've got a question, excuse me, or a comment, or if you've got a particular topic that you'd like to see explored more in depth here on FAIRtax Power Radio, the FAIRtaxGuys@gmail.com is our email address, or you can leave us a comment on our Facebook page. FAIRtaxGuys.com, without the "the" in front of it, is the repository for all of the older FAIRtax Power Radio episodes. Go back and check some of those out.
Yeah, I'm going to make a brief comment. This show streams live to Facebook every Tuesday evening, and for some reason the stream into Facebook sometimes is a little pixelated, but these shows are crystal clear on YouTube. We have our own YouTube page too. So you can check that out, okay? And our producer is
writing
something down.
Oh, yeah, the FAIRtax Pledge. Get folks to go to FAIRtax.org and download the candidate pledge to take to your...
That's right. FAIRtax.org. Click Get Involved and the FAIRtax Candidate Pledge. And there's a link there where you can download the pledge.
Yeah, they get you.
Your candidate to commit to sponsoring the FAIRtax if and when they are elected.
All right. And that's going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching and or listening, whichever the case may be. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you again that the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So, how much will I bring home?
Go ahead.
How much do you make? What'd you say, 40,000? Okay, keep it simple, throw out the deductions, all that stuff. So, you got your 40K, right? Now the first 8,000 is going to be taxed at 10%. The 8 to 33,000 is going to be taxed at 15%. And the 33 to 40, of course, is 25%. So that brings your total to $6,345.
Okay, so the average is what?
16%. Okay, and then on top of that, you got Medicare, which is 1.5%, and then of course your Social Security, which is 6.2%. So actually, your new total is $9,405.
Which is
23.65%. You're getting it. Don't even get me started on what the boss has to pay. He's got to pay a portion of your taxes as well, so you don't have to.
Right. And you?
Oh, you'd bring home every penny.